Well, hello, good afternoon, California. It is so great to be here this afternoon. We've got a lot of people joining us today to learn about a nonprofit's alternatives to unemployment taxes. I know some people might be a little slow to get on the meeting, so I will do a slow introduction. I hope you're all enjoying the lunch. I hope you had no issues getting those Uber Eats certificates. We're happy that we can, California is so big, it's hard to cover all of us. I'm based here in San Jose, and it's hard to get everywhere. So this is a fun way for us to reach out to other folks in the state that we might not be able to have lunch with, but still enjoy lunch together. So if you are, just a couple housekeeping things as I get started. Again, this is a nonprofit's alternative to unemployment taxes. We're really focusing on California here today. And I will be emailing, hopefully today, hopefully this afternoon, both a recording of this session as well as the PowerPoint. And if you do have any questions, please don't hesitate to use the questions box. Since I'm a solo show here, I don't always see it, but it will be saved for me, and I can certainly respond to you pretty quickly after the session is over. I will also, this has Shroom credits, so I will, when I send the PowerPoint and other collateral, I will also include that Shroom credit with that. So with no further ado, I'll do a quick introduction of myself and the team we work with. First of all, my name is Heidi Posada, and I am a trust representative here at 501c Services. Prior to coming here, I was with the YMCA of Silicon Valley as an executive director in Saratoga, if you're familiar with the area. And after that, I worked for the California division of the American Cancer Society here in the Silicon Valley. I did, and especially American Cancer Society, a big role I had was raising money. And so now that I'm here for several years, we're really focused more on saving money. So it's still helping nonprofits accomplish more for their mission, just in a different side, just a different side of the line. For those of you Warriors fans, you can see my C501. We've got a lot of Warriors fans. Sorry if you're Lakers or Kings, or but we are based here in San Jose, so a big celebration for Warriors when they're doing well. And I also do like to introduce my pup Hunter. He sometimes, it seems like as soon as I turn one of these webinars on, there's something, a squirrel or something that excites him. So if you hear barking, it's nothing ferocious. It's just that cute little Border Collie mix, Hunter. And if I am wobbling around more than usual, I'm trying something new for the first time. I broke my leg up in Lake Tahoe. I feel so cliche. After decades of skiing without ever talking to ski patrol, I was escorted to urgent care. But anyway, today's my first day standing, so hopefully I don't need to take a break and get my chair, and hopefully I'm not wobbling too much for y'all. Okay, enough about me. Let's talk about unemployment. So first, what we're going to cover, first a brief history and just how unemployment works. Then I'm going to talk about nonprofits specifically and some alternatives you have as being a 501c3. Then I will talk specifically about the option of reimbursing, and talk about some examples and true real life savings that some organizations can realize, and hopefully yours as well. So first of all, I know we all see unemployment, probably have heard a lot more about it the last few years, but I do like to cover just a quick history of unemployment before we dig too much into the nuts and bolts of how unemployment works. So first of all, unemployment first started in the 1930s. I believe it was the state of Wisconsin that first developed an unemployment program. And then as part of the New Deal, it did become part of, unemployment became a nationwide program. But from the 1930s until 1972, nonprofits were exempt from paying into the unemployment program. So yay, as you're managing expenses, looking at costs, this is great. You don't have that tax, which is wonderful, right? But the downside is anybody that you let go for any reason also did not get the benefit that someone else working in the for-profit world was receiving. So they made a little change in 1972 as part of the Social Security Act of 1972. They did add nonprofits to being part of the unemployment program, but they made it different than if you are, working at Disneyland or a for-profit company. It's structured a little different because you do have options of how you manage it. So a little bit just about how unemployment is run. First of all, each state has their own unemployment. It's overseen by the federal government. So if you are nonprofits, you probably know, are exempt from the FUTA taxes, but that covers the cost for running it at the federal level. At the state level, it's run through the state unemployment insurance, or SUTA is another way of putting it. So at the state level, California sets its own taxable wages. They set how they calculate the rates. It's all done state by state. So, and each year the state can look at how much do they owe, how big is the pool, and determine if they want to make any adjustments to the taxable wages or the tax rate. So, but essentially every state, including California, it is taxable wages times the tax rate that is based on your experience. So here's a quick little quiz. Let's kind of start thinking, instead of staring at the PowerPoint, an opportunity just to think a little bit about, what do you think one claim in California can cost? So if someone goes down to the unemployment office and they qualify for the highest weekly benefit amount and qualify and end up taking all the duration, just kind of think about, how much do you think that is? I won't make you think too long. The total is $11,700. So if you put that in, we're talking about specifically paying into the state unemployment pool right now. If you think about that, if someone files for unemployment, they get the whole $11,700. If you're paying into the state unemployment pool, that's a hit on your rate. That's like a car accident has impact on your car insurance. Each one of these claims has impact on the tax rate that you pay. So a quick review of all of the pieces of this California unemployment. First is the weekly benefit is $450, and that's increased slightly over the years. And the maximum number of weeks a person can collect is 26 weeks, that's what most states offer. There are a handful of states that have reduced the maximum number of weeks a person can collect, but California, we are still 26 weeks. And that's how we get that 11,000 total amount that a person could collect over the life of a claim. The taxable wage base here in California is 7,000, and that is actually the lowest possible nationwide. So other states, I think Washington is the highest at 55,000. So they are taxed on the first $55,000 of a person's earnings. Here in California, it's the first $7,000 of a person's earnings. So if you think about it, if your organization has a payroll of $1 million, but it's mostly, but you have 100 people working part-time, that's making up a big portion of that taxable wages, or the taxable wages of $1 million, versus an organization that has just a $1 million total payroll, but maybe they only have 20 employees. They're actually paying far less into the taxes than people with a lot of part-time and seasonal employees. And then the tax rates right now, and this has been pretty consistent over the years, the minimum tax rate here in California is 1.6%, and the maximum tax rate is 6.2%. Another thing in California that a lot of people don't pay attention to is the estimated improper payment rate. And this is information we get straight from the Department of Labor. California's is incredibly high at almost 20%. So how does that stack up nationwide? Well, not so good. You can see on our chart here, we do less than 10%. The yellow are 10 to 13%, and then the orange are greater than 13%. And we're way greater than 13% at almost 20%. Well, how does that translate into dollars here in California? In 2022, there was it's estimated that California overpaid. So this isn't what they're supposed to be paying. This is overpayments to people collecting unemployment by $1.5 billion. And there are ways to avoid this. So again, we want to keep those claims as low as possible to keep that rate as low as possible if you're paying into the unemployment pool. It is possible to audit claims. I know it's really challenging to do, but that is a way you can avoid having your rates increase or your dollar for dollar payments increase due to errors made at the state level. So a lot of us didn't really talk or think about unemployment a whole lot up until 2020, when all of a sudden unemployment kind of took over some news cycles. And if you look at what happened here, and this chart is from, I think it's from 2022. We did pay back a little bit of it, but our debt, so this is debt to the federal government, went as high as $20 billion. And that's as much as you can see here as all other states combined. So we went pretty far into debt. And what happens, and this is kind of good news right now for nonprofits, because you're not part of paying back that debt, because nonprofits don't pay the federal unemployment tax, and that's right now the only way California is paying that insolvency back. So last year, I think it was in 2022, I think the tax went up, I think $20. This year, people are paying $42 more per employee. 2024, 63, and by 2025, or by 2026, it's going to be $84 per employee. So right now, it's all being replenished through the FUTA taxes. It's unknown. I think a lot of us remember the surplus that we had last year statewide. Most of us, or many of us, got refund checks in California for various amounts. So so we were able to actually pay some of this debt through that surplus. We're paying some of it through the FUTA taxes, but it's unknown if we will continue to do that, or if eventually they will also increase the tax rate as well as the taxable wages. Because again, right now we are 7,000 the lowest taxable wages, so it's possible at some point that will go up. Normally, and this is a federal statistic, normally each person that pays into state unemployment taxes, for every the replacement rate is $1.28. So basically what that means is for every dollar you get from a benefit, you're paying in $1.28. During the recession, I think 2009, 2010, that replenishment rate went all the way up to $2.04. So far in California, they're carrying much of this load through the FUTA taxes and other areas. But I kind of keep your eye out. There's, there's always articles, chamber articles and other places that you can read that they're talking about eventually this taxable wage base or the way they calculate rates is going to have to give because of this huge insolvency that we're seeing right now. So if you are paying state unemployment taxes and you're looking for a way to maybe save money, maybe you don't have any claims, maybe you've had, or you're paying a lot more in taxes than you feel like you are in claims, there are alternatives. As a nonprofit, and this goes back to that 1972 Social Security Act, where they said, you know what, we want your employees to have the safety net. It's a good thing to have all these employees to have the safety net, but we don't want to take it from your mission. we don't want it to have an undue tax on you as a nonprofit. So what they've done is they say, you can pay the tax, that's the default, or you can reimburse. And what I like here is a lot of times I talk to people who work for organizations and they're funding it one way or the other, and they have no idea how that decision was made. So I always say, you know what, look and see every 5-6 years how, or in California, you have to keep doing it for 5 years, however you're doing it right now. So, but every once in a while, look at how you're managing your unemployment and say, is there a better way? Is paying taxes still the most cost-effective way? Or if you are reimbursing, is that the most cost-effective way? And then the third option is you can kind of do a hybrid. You can self-insure, reimburse, but then you can also buy insurance to reduce the risk of having a year of catastrophic claims. So how does reimbursing work? Well, it's not necessarily for everyone, but first of all, you do have to be a 501c3 nonprofit. Religious institutions don't have to pay unemployment, and some do choose to, and we work with a handful of religious institutions that have created their own unemployment, but typically they're not part of the unemployment program. We recommend that you have a payroll of $1 million or higher. It's not mandatory, it's not a state rule, it's a recommendation we have. So if you happen to have a smaller payroll than $1 million and you want us to do an analysis, we're happy to do that. But just know that for most organizations, $1 million payroll usually means their taxes are pretty low, much lower than a one-time average claim could cost. So, so just keep that in mind. Another area that we like to have is a positive audit over the last 3 years. So what we mean by that is that over the last 3 years, whatever you've paid in claims benefit amount is less than what you've paid for your state unemployment tax. We had a crazy 2020 though, didn't we? The pandemic really kind of has thrown that 2020, even 2021 claims were kind of skyrocketed. So we kind of use that as say, well, that's an anomaly, and really look at the numbers and see what the numbers play out like without those pandemic claims if you were hit with that. And another thing I know, I'm here in the Silicon Valley, so we're certainly hearing a lot about funding and layoffs at Meta and Google and all these other places here in the Silicon Valley. We want to make sure if you are currently paying SUI and considering going reimbursing, that you and your organization don't believe there's going to be any major layoffs coming soon. And that would be closing a program. If you're a Y, closing a branch or something like that. We want to make sure that, you know, if you're going to let 1 or 2 people go, that's fine. but any major disruption, we might want to put off evaluating the reimbursing option. So how reimbursing works is, I mean, the first and foremost is your organization no longer is overpaying, which most organizations are over that $1.28 to $2.04, no longer overpaying into the state tax system. And the easiest way to say it is your tax rate goes from whatever it is right now to 0% tax rate. But that doesn't mean you're not getting any bills. The state will now send a bill to your organization for the exact amount of the claims that you incurred. So if you had 4 people on unemployment and they total got $800 in unemployment benefits over a quarter, you will just get a bill for that amount. Now, I a lot of times talk to people and they say, holy cow, am I having to figure out weekly benefit amount? Am I having to figure out am I sending these unemployment checks? That's way too much work. I don't want to do it. And the good news is that's not at all how it works. The state, you're still in California here working with EDD. The state is still calculating the weekly benefit amount. They are still sending, I don't think it's checks, I think it's deposits into credit cards. but the state's doing all that. An employee has no idea how you're managing unemployment. The only thing that changes is how what you pay is calculated. And why is this worth looking into? How is this saving me money? Well, our company has been around for over 40 years. I've been here for 12 years, and I can definitely tell through experience of doing lots and lots and lots of cost analysis that it usually saves an organization money. There might be 1 or 2 years that you take a hit, but overall, long term, it's almost, for the vast majority of nonprofits, this is an opportunity to save money. So also, if California eventually does increase either the tax rates or taxable wages, it's an opportunity for you to avoid anything like that. Or even if they change how they're calculating, just somehow increasing your rate, even if you've done nothing, had any increase in claims. So you can avoid any of that. And the best way I look at it, and of course this comes from my former days as a fundraiser, it's really a better use of donor dollars. Instead of overpaying a tax, you are just paying exactly what you've spent, and putting all that rest of the money into other resources, other programs that your nonprofit runs. And we have been seeing more and more that nonprofits are starting to have people work remotely. And because they can work remotely, they can work in any state. And I'm seeing lots and lots of people that are saying, well, we've got most of our employees in California, but we've got 20 people nationwide in other states. So just so you know, again, unemployment is overseen at the federal level along with the reimbursing option. And so if you do find yourself in a position that you have, maybe you're already reimbursing where your headquarters are, but you want to know, should we be reimbursing where we're hiring all these other staff? We can certainly help you look at first if you should be signed up for unemployment in those states. There's different rules for a number of employees. And we can also help you determine what the most cost-effective way to manage your unemployment in all states. And one really cool thing, if you ended up going with 501c services, we can put all of your claims under one umbrella. If you have employees in multiple states, put them all under one umbrella, so you're getting one set of claims, not mail from 5, 10, 15 different states. So how reimbursing works, there's a couple different ways. If you are already reimbursing, and maybe you want to look at alternatives to how you reimburse. If you're paying SUI and you're thinking about switching to reimbursing, there's a couple different ways you can do it. And the first is you can manage it on your own. You can do the cost analysis on your own. You can make sure that you are managing your claims on your own. You can do all of that. That's certainly something you can do. Another option is to outsource with an organization like us, 501c Services, also known as 501c Agencies Trust. And we can really help. I really look at the benefit of our services as an opportunity to enjoy the benefit of saving money, but also reduce the risk that comes with reimbursing. And the third option, and this is something we can also help you with, is you can purchase insurance, which is an even more, you don't save quite as much as you do, but you also don't take on much risk at all either when you purchase the insurance. So first I want to do a quick overview of I know I've already talked about the tax rates, but just one more quick overview and then a look at some samples for you. So the first is, again, the taxable wage base here in California is $7,000 and the tax range is 1.6 to 6.2%. So what that means, if you have, for every employee, depending on your tax rate, for every employee you have making $7,000 or more, you're paying, if you have the lowest tax rate, you're paying $112 per employee. If you have the highest tax rate, you're paying $434. And so that really shows keeping your, managing that tax rate, keeping it low can really save you a lot of money. Also, if you're not having any claims, switching to reimbursing can certainly save you a lot of money as well. And I apologize, this slide is a little bit more, a little less clear than I would hope, but I hope you can follow along. I wanted to just show the information that is on the tax rate notice. A lot of people get this file. Sometimes they don't even get it. Sometimes it goes to their payroll company. But a lot of times when it comes to you in your office, you look at it, you say, yep, I got it, and then file it away. And I totally understand that. If you do that, you're like many others that I work with. But I think that there's some very interesting things to look at on the tax rate notice. So if you want to dig yours up, if you have it, California mailed them in December. The date says December 31st, but I think this year they came out with the first or second week of December. So things to look at on here. The first one is your tax rate, and you can see here this organization had a 6.2%. I'm pretty sure that's what it says, 6.2% tax rate. If it had been any lower than that, so say it was 6.1%, the state automatically adds a 0.1% to that for a training fund. So whatever your rate is, they add 0.1% unless you're at the maximum. Another thing we don't have highlighted here, but the UI tax schedule, a lot of people when I'm talking to them, they're like, I don't know, I'm an F. That's actually a statewide rating, and that impacts the rate, how your rate is calculated. When we are at an F+, that's the lowest. That's because we owe $20 billion, or what, 17 billion now. We owe a lot of money. And so that gives us the F rating, which basically bumps up your tax rate a little, and you cannot do anything about that. It's just they bump up your rate a little bit more than it would be if we didn't owe as much. Now, another thing to look at here is the UI contributions from last year. So line 2 is the UI contributions. And this one, I think it's $34,000. So last year, this organization paid $34,000 in taxes. And then if you go down to line number 9, you see that they paid about $8,000 in actual claims and benefit charges. So they paid a lot more this particular year in unemployment claims than they did on benefit charges. So you can see it right there in black and white. There really is a potential to save. And another place that California gets us, and this is how they get your tax rates up, sometimes as high as 6.2%, there's this line item 10, which is a socialized cost. And they basically say, our pool owes $20 billion, or whatever the level is right now. And they take a little chunk of that pool and distribute it to every employer statewide. And of course, they're not taking that whole 20 billion, but a little bit extra gets added to your benefit amount. We call it a socialized cost, and that's just their way of helping boost up your tax rate, so in future years you'll pay even more. Now this one has a 6.2 tax rate, so they're not getting anything else out of them, but that is what that line item 10 is all about. So here's a couple other examples of organizations I've worked with fairly recently, and kind of what, if I was to do an analysis for you, what it would look like. We look at the taxable payroll. This one was a little shy of $1 million with a tax rate of 4.7%, and this one was incredible. They only had, over the last 3 years, average claims of $200. So with that tax rate and taxable payroll, they're paying over $45,000 in taxes and only $200 in claims. So we're like, come on, let us manage your unemployment, let us help you start reimbursing, and we're gonna put $45,000 back into your organization. Now I do wanna say sometimes we'll do the same analysis but backwards. And we'll say, if you're reimbursing and maybe something in your organization has changed, we can certainly help you look at going back to SUI and also managing and helping you manage your unemployment as a tax-paying organization as well. Because sometimes something does change. This is more typical, but sometimes if you are reimbursing, it's worth looking at the other way too. An SPCA that we talked to had a taxable payroll of $700,000, tax rate 3.4%. Their estimated taxes was just shy of $24,000, and they had a little bit higher claims than the other one. They were up to $5,900, but we were still looking at saving them $18,000 a year. So again, let's start reimbursing. Let's put this money back into saving those animals, or back into somehow back into the programs there. So just a quick little, I know I've talked a lot about our organization, but I want to talk just a little bit more about what we do and how we benefit nonprofits. First of all, we were founded by a man named John Huckstead. He was the executive director at United Cerebral Palsy here in San Jose, California. And in 1982, he was evaluating ways to save his organization money. He came across the option of reimbursing. He was seeing it as, how this is a great way to save money. He went and talked to some of his friends in the nonprofit world here in San Jose, and none of them were really taking advantage of the reimbursing. So he ended up launching the trust back in 1982. We started with about 25 nonprofits here in California. We've grown to now we're serving in various different ways over 3,000 nonprofits nationwide. And in 2016, we became 100% employee owned. I really like to mention that. I think it's important to know that we don't have much turnover in staff, so you're really getting very qualified, knowledgeable people that you work with if you do work with 501. Managing unemployment really is what we do, and we all own a piece of the company. So if you're calling the front desk, you're actually getting a real person. You're getting our receptionist most of the time, and all the way up to the CEO. You're going to get fast, responsive information when needed. And I can speak, the test was really put on us during the pandemic when all those nonprofits that were helping were so confused trying to figure out the ins and outs of the CARES Act and how is this unemployment, how are all these layoffs or furloughs impacting? How is the closure of so many Ys impacting unemployment? And we were really able to respond in a very timely manner. We were able to continue to meet our own expectations of ourselves of responding to calls within 24 hours. So we have a lot of resources and we're able to get information when needed. And who are some of those people that benefited from that then and continue to benefit? So here's just a snapshot of some of the organizations. We currently work with, I think somewhere between 350 and 400 California nonprofits. And here's just a sampling of some of them. So you'd be in good company if you did choose to at least review the option of our services. So real quick, I'll talk about the services the suite of services we offer, and this is just a very brief summary. We do provide claims management. So I was mentioning this when I was talking about multiple states. We have a tool called Shield. So all of your unemployment claims come through this tool. You have a claims administrator. So if you have any question about a claim or how to respond, the claims administrator is there to support you. We also have unlimited access to hearing reps through our claims management. So really just any questions you have about claims, our goal here is to help you keep your weekly benefit amount that you have to pay out as low as possible. So if you want to protest a claim, you can do that. If you want support in answering a claim, the tools are available to you. We also offer HR services, including Ask HR, which is an HR, it's a kind of a hotline HR consultation, whether you email or call or however you want to talk with them. We have a team available here to answer HR related questions. They are exclusively working with us and nonprofits, so they get all the questions. I think one of my favorite is someone at an organization had an employee walk in the office wrapped only in bubble wrap. So they, and they called and said, hey, what can I do about this? How can I help the employee? What can we do about discipline? So they are here. Typical questions are FMLA, disciplinary, but any HR related question that you would have, you could ask them. They also, with HR, with Ask HR, we also offer a knowledge library as well as a number of trainings throughout the year. And most of those do come with your SHRM credits. And reemployment is a package if our members are able to provide this for employees if they have to let them go. And it just allows them to have a little safety net in addition to collecting unemployment. They help them find their next job. So help them with a resume. They even can help them find maybe a new career path, maybe something that's more fitting to their skill set and their personality. So really here though, our goal for the employee is to have them have that resource. Our goal for you as our member is to reduce the number of weeks you're paying unemployment. So if we can save even 2 weeks, if they get a job 2 weeks faster, we just saved you $900 that you would have otherwise paid out. And like I mentioned, we do offer different levels of insurance if that is something that you'd be interested in. I know some, some like to have a combination of the reimbursing and insurance, so that's definitely something available. And then our savings. This is where 501c agencies trust, the grantor trust part of our organization company comes in. We recommend that our members put in a small amount each year until they reach a target amount in their savings account. That money, it belongs to your organization. You benefit from investment returns. So there's and it's exclusive to unemployment. So if you do have higher than usual claims, you've got that money set aside already. You don't usually, the years that you have higher claims, you're also hurting in other sides of the budget. So luckily you've already got the money set aside and we can pay those claims for you. So I hope I've piqued your interest, and I hope this is something that just exploring our services as a way to reduce what you're paying in unemployment or exploring how you manage your unemployment. I'd be more than happy to do a free cost analysis with you. And it's pretty simple what we need. I think 941s can a lot of times be pretty easy to gather. Q3 through Q2, if you're reimbursing, that's all I would need from you. And if you're paying state unemployment tax, this form, I think I showed you all the information that it contains. This form, 1 year gives us a good snapshot. The 3 years really gives us a good idea of what your history of claims has been. But whatever, I know these things get lost pretty quickly in desks and drawers. So if this is something you're interested in pursuing, we can certainly talk more in depth about if you can't find all of this information. But that is all I have. I hope you've all enjoyed your lunch. I hope if you weren't able to take advantage of the lunch today, I think you've got till noon tomorrow to order something on the Uber Eats. I'm happy to answer any questions. And I will, like I said at the beginning, if you join late, I will be emailing this along with your SHRM credits and the video presentation of this. I'll be emailing that all to you pretty shortly. Hopefully I can get to all of you by the end of the day. So I wish I could see all your faces. I wish I could have been in the room eating lunch with you, but I think this is a good alternative. I hope you all enjoyed this, and I hope to hear from you down the road. Thank you.